Welcome to the Work in Progress podcast. This is a space where we want to create conversations around things that actually matter. Thanks for joining us today. We hope these words encourage you to know that no matter where we are in our journeys, we're all still a work in progress.
What is up, podcast family? We are back again. Shady's back. Tell a friend. We are back actually for part two.
I gotta go.
We're back for part two. So if you are hopping in on this episode right now, we started a conversation about busyness last week. We're picking up the conversation in here because we want to talk very practically some of the things that we've done ourselves to create some margin and to talk about that whole process. So if you have not listened to the first part of this about busyness, you should start there. So not that I don't want you to join us here today, but you'll get more out of it if you actually listen to the previous week today. So with that said, I don't even think we need a cool intro or a cool transition. I think we just hop right in.
We didn't have a cool intro, bro. You singing Slim Shady,
That's
bro.
right. We already had the cool intro because we're back. Let's just dive in. Let's talk about how do we create margin? What does that look like in our own lives? Give some hopeful, practical resources that people can take outside of here. So,
bro, what is margin? What does that even mean to create
margin? Okay, so if you ever seen a piece of notebook paper, on the left side is called the margin. That's what margin is. So that's margin, man. We're that. No, so what we're doing, so if you ever seen like a notebook paper for real, if you ever seen anybody like a kid who's learning how to write or something like that, if they write like from full page left to right all the way, it looks weird. Because we're so used to seeing a paper with margins on it. This little space has on the left and the top, that's margin, right? It's areas on your paper that you don't write, right? And so in the same idea, we should also create margin in our lives, little spaces that we have buffer zones, because if not, your calendar ends up controlling you not controlling your calendar. So margin is just those little times in your schedule, in your day, in your life that are built in to create space so that you don't get overwhelmed and the paper looks normal. Does that answer the question?
That's good, bro.
Yeah, you like that? That's the years of teaching. There it is.
That's good. So going off of that, why do we need to create margin in our lives? Why is that a good idea?
Because if you don't create margin, you will be burned out. You will be overwhelmed. You will find your times in your day where you can't fit everything that you want to fit into your day, into your schedule, because you have no room to breathe.
Right.
So margin is super important, no matter how big your capacity is. That's something that's like, I think, a misconception. I have a pretty large capacity, but even I get caught up and I have to create margin, because if not, I'll get overwhelmed. And so, got to have margin or else you will burn out.
That's good, man. What does that look like for you?
It is, no pun intended, a work in progress. It's a work in progress, man. I'm not super great at this still. There's still days that I overload my schedule, overload my calendar, and just gets a little crazy. I am blessed in the fact that I do get to create a lot of my schedule outside of like meetings and things like that. And so there's times where if I had a really long day the day before that went way over hours, I can cut back maybe the next morning, an hour or whatever later that I went over, and just kind of reset. But honestly, I've never used a Google Calendar on my phone more than I do now, because that does help me create margins. I have areas of my calendar that are blocked off, so I know that, there's nothing that's going to go in there. I think also having our first child has created some of that in me, where I know like I've got these appointments and this things, it's blocked off. There's nothing's going to happen. So that's how I've done it. Google Calendar has been my friend.
Yeah. Google Calendars is legit.
But also being aware of my capacity and not overfilling that, I think is hugely important.
Yeah, I think awareness is huge when it comes to, first of all, like scheduling things for yourself throughout your days and your weeks and your months.
And in a way, like we're kind of in the same boat of like we're our own, like kind of make our own schedule. You own your own business. I get a pretty flexible schedule to create. And so some people that have a normal 9 to 5 or Monday through Friday job, there's some of it that you can avoid. So that's even, I think, more important. I won't say more important. It's just as important for you to structure your time outside of the 9 to 5 and structuring your time in the 9 to 5 to where you are making the most out of your hours at work. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I think that comes with a good point, right? Because I think with the discipline of doing this, creating that margin, creating these time slots for yourself, it creates freedom. Like I'm sure you've heard that before. Discipline equals freedom. Mm-hmm. Discipline creates freedom, however you've heard it. But I think it's true, right? And when you hold yourself to these time standards, right, where you're not going to let anybody in on like Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays from, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, it creates routine, and it creates the freedom of knowing that like you're loosely holding these times. If something needs to happen on occasion, you have the ability to let it happen, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, you're going to let it be what it needs to be, and that's your margin of family time. Yeah. That's your margin of baby doctor appointments. Yeah. For me, that's margin of date nights. It's a margin of me not editing after hours, cause things get crazy sometimes, and you have the tendency to say, I'm just going to get it done now. And you stay longer, thus creating ripples in the rest of your week, or with the relationship you have with your spouse or significant other. So it's important. It's really important to have those things. And, I think that kind of this goes well into the topic and the book that we've kind of discussed in the past, and that you gave it to me and I read, and it's Carey Nieuwhof, At Your Best. And he does a really good job of explaining why it's important to have these margins to reduce the burnout and to ultimately, honestly, get more work done, do it better, do it more efficiently, and also have the time to yourself, to your spouse, and to get in the Word when you need to get in the Word, have that quiet time, whatever it may be. Let's dive into the zones that Carey talks about, man, because I think that's important. And we'll go over it briefly, because we can't say it as good as Carey can, to be honest.
We'll link the book in the show notes, because it's really worth buying. It's worth reading. It's worth making notes. It's worth the resources that come with it.
Right.
So we'll touch on some things, but definitely check out the book. Like, grab you a copy.
Yeah.
Read the book.
I recommend this book to friends and family who feel like they're overwhelmed with their calendars or their schedules. It really does help.
Just be aware, there is going to be some, you have to be really honest with yourself, because there's going to be some convicting areas in there that you're going to have to identify and change if you actually want to, be successful in like this creating margin. And so if you go in with it, like with the closed mind or not completely honest, it's not going to do what it could do in your life. So I would just say that on the front end, be open-minded, be honest with yourself. And then, definitely go find this book. So Aaron, I'm going to let you have the floor here. Talk me through green zones, yellow zones, red zones, just briefly, and kind of how that's played out in your life.
Let's go. I love this. So in the book, Carey talks about everybody has these quote unquote zones of when they're optimal and when they're not optimal, when they're really good at their work and when they're not as good, right? And he calls them the green zone, yellow zone, and red zone. Now, obviously, the green zone is when you're at your best. It's when you're thinking the clearest, you can focus harder and deeper on work more intentionally. And so he calls for like an audit of your own personal time, right? You figure those times out over the course of a week or 2 weeks, however long it takes, right? Because for me personally, in the mornings when I first get up, I'm like ready to go. I'm ready to dive into my work on the computer, my editing work. And that's when I'm at my best, and basically Carey puts it in like sections of your calendar, your green zone, yellow zone, red zone. When you're in your yellow zone, you can do the work that is still needs a certain amount of focus, but not as much focus as your
not the
optimal.
Creative, not the big. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, before you leave the green zone, let me interject. Green zone is not like 6 hours of your day. That was a big thing for me. I was like, all my day is green. False. Not all of my day is green.
Yes.
So you have to be really honest.
Yeah.
Like, it's maybe an hour, 2 hours. Maybe I think you can't have a 3 if you're just like super capacity is huge, I think, but be honest with yourself. You only have 2 hours maybe of really good time.
And that's when you're at your complete best, right? Very few people can zone in and focus deeply and intentionally on work for longer than 2 to 3 hours. And the cool thing about it is that it doesn't have to be consecutive. It doesn't have to be 3 hours in one sitting, right? You can break that up by the time that makes sense for you and how you're feeling. So I know specifically for me, my mornings are the green zones. And after lunch it's not getting any better. So what my day looks like is pretty much when I wake up, I'm in the green, right? And all the way till like about 11:30 is my yellow zone where I'm still focused. I just can't do the work that's a little bit more detail oriented or I need to focus on really in depth. And so this is the time where I would like record a podcast, right? Yeah. This is the time where I would reply to business emails, not necessarily like lighter emails that are replying to friends or whatever, but it's like I'm still needing to focus and make the right moves, the right business strategy, techniques or whatever, or probably like filming personal content for my business or my brand.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have your red zones where you're like, I'm pretty much wiped out for today. I can do easy things like send email to DV to schedule like a meeting or to other people.
Just don't call me.
I'll give you a call later.
Just don't call me.
Call him on his cell phone.
Please don't.
And it's really cool because it really shows you, it breaks down the days according to almost like your energy levels, right? Like high energy, medium energy, and low energy. And that's kind of how the book kicks off. And that was...
So that alone, I think, is worth the price of the book. So that alone, and you get resources that you can link into your calendars, whatever you decide to use. And so definitely, that's really good to figure out red, yellow, green. Like you want to know where your zones are. You want to know what you can do in those zones. And I think it, again, like we talked about last episode, I think it actually gives you like the freedom, like knowing, hey, this is my spot. This is what I have blocked out. Like this is what I do all this. It allows you the freedom because now you're like, I got the big priority thing done and now I can do the rest of it. So that's really good.
And going off of that, like the cool thing about it is that he teaches you how to find those times for yourself. And then he gives you practical tips, like don't schedule a phone call meeting with Daniel during your prime focused hours. Like get the deep work, the intentional work done.
Yeah.
Schedule that time with him when you have a little bit less energy, but you could still focus and get, it's really cool stuff like that. But
so shout out to Mr. Canada. Way to go, Canada. I also want to talk about somebody else. His name is Jesus. Yes, his name is Jesus. I think Jesus is another one of those examples, the ultimate example of how to actually do this rhythms of rest, how to live a life of margin. Because I think you read all through the gospel, you find these stories, these moments of Jesus, his ministry, where he's always surrounded by people. He's always going from one place to one place, but he's never hurried. And I think that just speaks to him living this life of margin. And so I think one of those key things for him, I don't want to speak for him, but I think one of the things that you see in the Gospels is that he does have these rhythms of rest. Mm-hmm. You talked about it briefly last episode, but I think it's something to expand on here in this episode is you have got to find these moments, these rhythms where you rest. I mean, even creation, God rested on the seventh day. God needs to rest for that. Jesus needs to rest. You are neither Jesus or God, and so we need to rest. Mm-hmm. And so again, don't hear this as an excuse, right? Oh, I worked Monday through Friday, which means Saturday and Sunday, I don't do anything but rest and lay on the couch and binge watch Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you do need to find these regular rhythms in your routine to rest. And again, I'm preaching this to myself. I'm talking to myself because I don't do this perfectly.
Yeah.
Maybe even less than perfectly, because your calendar fills up so quickly that it's hard because if you've got a date night with your wife or your fiance or whatever, and it's on your calendar, right? If it's on your calendar, it's really hard to cover that up. Like it's really hard to say, oh, I can take something at that one because maybe that's your rhythm of rest with your spouse.
Yeah.
Maybe your rhythm of rest is your quiet time in the morning. And so maybe you have to get up early. Maybe you have to get up at 6:00 to be able to spend 30 minutes, an hour, 5 minutes, whatever you're starting at with Jesus to start your day. But whatever those rhythms of rest are, spiritual rest, physical rest, emotional rest, you've got to build those in because if not, whatever area that you're not resting in will be an area that you're overwhelmed in. And so building in those rhythms of rest, look to Jesus' example. It's all through the gospel. I mean, you see it all over. He's finding these rhythms of rest, and he's living this life of margin that when people come up and need something from him that's important, that he knows is his time to handle it, he does it because he's got these yeah, he's got this margin in his life that he can do these miracles and these things.
Exactly. And it gives him the endurance to continuously do it, right? Without saying, oh man, these people keep asking me for miracles, man, and nobody's done a miracle for me. What the heck? You know?
That's right. What else? What other tools do you use that help you control your calendar, that help you live in margin? What else do you use?
Yeah, I think in that same breath, I think Carrie also mentioned something which is super vital, and I didn't realize this until I saw him write it. I read it, and I was like, wait, that's me. Carrie says that there's oftentimes a lot of anxiety and stress and uncertainty that comes with having an empty calendar. And I'm not saying you fill your calendar from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. with events and stuff to do. But when you block your calendar off in these zones, like, you understand and you have the ability to see almost like into the future, right? Like, well, I know that I'm going to be at my best this time in the morning, or I'm going to take a meeting this time in the evening. And it allows you to say no easier to things that you have that may be coming up, right? Yeah. Or like to things that people ask you that you may not want to do, or you may not have the capacity to do, right? And having an empty calendar, when you scroll to that date, hey, are you free on the 14th of this next month? And there's nothing on your calendar. You're like, sure, I'm free. Even though you probably know you shouldn't say yes, right? It allows you to say no in a more polite way, of course, in a graceful way, unlike you, bro. No. But I'm just kidding. But like, it allows you to say no. It allows you to see like, oh, I probably shouldn't do that, on this day, and it's freed me from a lot of things that I was able to say no to that I probably wouldn't have in the past, and having, what do they say? Having no, like, it's like being prepared for anything, right? Like, proper planning leads to perfect preparation. I don't know the saying, man. Too many P's in a row, but
that's right.
It's really a useful tool to have in your tool belt,
Yeah. I think also in this space that we're trying to create this content, if you've got something that you have found like, man, I really love fill in the blank, whatever it is that helps you create margin, helps you control your calendar, man, share it in the comments, share this to your Instagram, whatever. Let other people in your circle in on these tools. There's a lot of really cool tools out there that we're not even going to touch on. But yeah, I think it is super important. Really, we wanted this one to be a little bit shorter and a little bit really practical. And so I think those are really good things. Again, we'll link that book in the show notes. I want to leave you actually with some scripture. This is actually taken from the Message translation, but I just love the way this is worded. And so it's speaking about Jesus and how he understood the rhythms of rest in his life. And so it comes out of Matthew 11, verses 28 through 30. And I just kind of want to close our time talking about this with this passage of scripture. It says, "Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take real rest. Walk with me, work with me, watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." Right? I'll show you how to take real rest. Watch how I do it. Right? This is Jesus's words. And I think those are something that can be freeing to you, because if you are overwhelmed by a calendar, if you're overwhelmed by the busyness of your schedule, just like in everything else, we should be looking to Jesus as our example. And Jesus is laying it out for us how to live these rhythms of rest, how to incorporate these moments of physical, spiritual, mental, emotional rest. And so look to him. He's the ultimate example. These resources are great. That's good. But he is the ultimate example. So look to him.
That's awesome, man. Did you write that?
I did not. That came out of scripture. Did not write that.
Oh, bro, that's really good. That's really good.
So again, wrapping up this 2-part little mini series here about busyness and margin. Don't let your calendar control you. There is ways, there is help. So don't stay under that busy weight, that busy burden. For yourself from that. So let's wrap up today. You got anything else?
I was just gonna say, and this is still something we're working on every day.
And of course.
That's why we're still a work in progress.
It's a work in progress, hence the name.
Let's go.
Let's wrap up with our creators of the week. Go ahead and give me your creator of the week.
Oh, man. We were just talking about him. This guy, his name is Reward Sibanda. His IG account says he's a traveling teacher. Not a traveling teacher, but he does travel. He's a teacher. And basically he teaches people about Jesus, man. It's
That's
super
right.
cool. It teaches you how to like unlock your full potential through Jesus.
Great content on Instagram.
Yeah.
We had the pleasure of having a reward out for our Built for This student service weekend last year.
Yeah.
Phenomenal speaker.
Captivating.
Yeah.
Captivating.
Great stuff on Instagram. Definitely check him out. Mine is actually, I don't think I've talked about this one yet. I don't think He Gets Us, which is just something really cool that's happening. If you watch sports, you've seen the advertisements on there. It's just all about Jesus. And so it's really cool. Check them out on Instagram. He Gets Us. They have a website. They actually do some really cool stuff where they give away like merch to create conversations about Jesus, and it's free. Like they literally just want people to have conversations about Jesus. And
That's
so
really cool.
Check them out. They're doing a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you have to say on rest, busyness?
Yeah. Like, subscribe, and follow.
That's good. That's good. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us again today. Wrapping up episode, I don't even know what number, but I know it's episode 2 in this little mini series about busyness. So,
I got something,
Yeah.
bro. I'm going to go ahead and be the first to say congratulations on being a Papa Bear.
all right.
By the time this is released, this guy
right.
will be a father. And so, congratulations, man.
Say the prayers. All the
It's
prayers.
going to be cool to see, man. I'm going to be an uncle. It's going to be cool.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be great. We will see you guys soon.
All right.
Peace out.